Hi guys, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking my old homemade table saw, taking it apart and start building our new one. So I really can't wait to do this because I really need to do it, because after I add the extension after building the router table, it just hasn't been as accurate, and to be honest I haven't been entirely happy with it. So I think it was time to build the new one. So we're just going to be using this MDF, and it's we're going to use a 4x2 foot sheet, so we're going to cut this. And yeah, so let's get into this, guys. Alright, so as you can see, we have our saw detached here. Now what you're going to start doing is you're going to start basing everything off one square edge. So I know that this edge here, over here, is perfectly square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my measuring tape and measure from it 3 foot. So I have a 2x3 sheet of wood. You can keep a 4 foot, but it's very rectangular. And I personally don't think it looks right, so I'm just going to get my square here, make sure it's tight up against the edge, and then just run a line across it. And I have this piece of wood raised off the ground a bit, so when I'm cutting it I won't go through my floor, because that would be bad. Alright guys, so this may be a bit hard for you to visualize, but basically you have to think of this the underside of the saw. So one main thing is you want your saw to be near kind of the back, like around this area. You don't want to be in the middle, because then you won't have much in-feed room. Whereas even though I know you won't have much out-feed room, you can always build an extension or use something else, even an ironing board if you need to. So I'm going to put mine, I think, kind of around here, so it's kind of between the middle and the back. And now it's not extremely important, because you're going to be referencing your miter sots and your fence to the blade once we have it mounted, but I like to try and keep it parallel with this edge. So I'm going to get my measuring tape, measure from here to here and here to here, and make sure it's parallel. And then I'm just going to use my pencil and draw around the whole thing. And then we're going to use the router to make a notch to fit this. So guys, here's the square bit that we're going to be taking out with the router. And one thing I forgot to mention is the distance between here and here, and why it's so much shorter than here. It's like with all table saws, this side you don't need much, whereas this side you do, because that's where the fence is going to be. So you want to be able to move it backwards and forwards really easily. So yeah, let's just get into this. And by the way guys, the depth I'm going down with the router is however the thickness of your, whatever this is called, is on your circular saw. So guys, as you can see here, just use all the appropriate safety equipment, because it's very important, especially when working with MDF. It's very dangerous stuff for your lungs, so definitely wear a respirator. And as you can see here, for a fence, I'm just resting my knees on some plywood, because I only make 3 straight lines, and then I just can do the rest freehand and one more straight line at the end. It's pretty simple. So guys, as you can see, here's our little pocket that we did with the router. Now the way I do it is I go here, this direction, just once, and this direction once using a fence, and then I just go freehand for the rest of the way, working back, and then at the end go straight again. And as you can see, if I pull the blade guard back, it fits it really nice. There's no play or anything, it's real just straight. So what we're going to do now is, I have some old holes drilled in this before, so I'm going to screw it to this, and then I'm also going to put some piece of wood going across, which will really hold it nice and steady. So as you can see, I've mounted the saw, and what I'm now doing is lowering the blade into the wood, and I have the woodways quite highly off the ground, because obviously I don't want to cut into my floor. This can be quite scary the first time you do it, but just be careful and try and keep your hands away from the blade, and especially be careful where your hand is on holding the blade guard, because it is quite intimidating. But just go as far down as you can and then turn the blade off. Right, so this is why it's handy to have 2 things at the same level in your workshop. So I'm just holding it across here, don't worry, I'm not using the saw. So what we're going to do now is I'm just marking a bigger slot so I can cut my jigsaw. We're going to unmount the saw, and then we're going to cut it with the jigsaw. So as you can see guys, we have the big slot cut. So now what happens is this pops up, but when we have the zero clearance inserts, that won't happen. But as you can see, I have loads of room, so now when I want to replace blades, it'll be pretty easy. Now I used to, on my first table saw, actually have the blade guard like this, and it turned out to be really bad. So what happened is I thought, like, my whole mindset was this would be like a blade guard, so I could push the piece of wood over, and then once I get to the end it would shut off again. But the problem with this whole system is, one, sometimes it's actually quite hard to get this to lift up, and then two, when you get to around this point there's a lot of pressure, so you have to push down. And it might be different with other table saws, but with this one, the blade, the blade guard, has a very strong spring, and it just wants to lift your wood up. So when we're pushing it through, that's all it wants to do. So if you look at it very closely, when I do this here, if I can get it, see how my piece of wood starts to lift up like that, because it doesn't want to go down. So if you were thinking, oh, that might be a good solution, don't do it, because it doesn't actually help at all. So that's just a little tip for you there, guys. So guys, here's a real quick tip for you. You just get your blade fully up. Now we're going to cut the slot for the zero clearance inserts in a second, but when you're cutting the miter slots, all you do is you get a level and you make sure it is completely up against your blade. Now you want to try and stop any of the teeth from hitting this, but luckily my teeth are actually flush with the blade. This might be a bit harder if you don't have a blade like this, but basically I can just bring it up against it like that, hold it there, and then I clamp at both edges and run my router across, and that's the miter slots cut. You just do it for both sides. And you might be thinking, oh well, that's very close to the blade, but you have to remember the distance between the router and that, so it'll be down here. So yeah. So using the same technique as the way we did the underneath, I just used my level to make just a kind of square or rectangle to go around this rectangle, and it's not the best job, to be honest with you, but it'll hold a piece of, I think this is 3mm MDF really nicely. Well guys, I have my table saw really awkwardly balanced actually here, but that wraps up this week's video, guys. So next week we're hopefully going to be doing the fence, making some zero clearance inserts, and then the week after building the cabinet to go around it. If you haven't already, please subscribe, leave some comments down below, tell me what you think and any suggestions you might have. So I'm just going to put some paste wax on this now, just so that way it's nice and smooth. And I'll see you guys later. So remember, a clean shop is a safe shop. Thanks for watching, guys.